they're saying with this settlement, we'd be lucky, if we get a couple $100,000. Isn't that sickening?
Honestly, I think that
So we'll
Ghislaine
be
is
really
suing
lucky.
now and that she's going to try
I
and get
mean,
the money
I
for
lost. I was
her and
making.
send it back to whoever funded this whole thing, whether it's Wexner or
She is.
Mossad or whatever.
She is.
Sick.
Oh, she'll give. I can assure you that Wexner handles Ghislaine, and Ghislaine. I mean, sorry. Ghislaine answers to Wexner. I know that for a fact.
So you think she
And
answers more
that's how I knew he
to
was the head of
Wexner
this
than
snake.
like, I don't know, like Israeli intelligence where her dad worked, right? Do you think she's more like under Wexner than?
Right. No, I know she's Israeli. Yeah. Well, Wexner is Israeli intelligence, 100%. And I believe that. I mean, there's no way it was just a sign. It was a sign that she would be under him. And I know that's where she got all of her funding to do this scam with Epstein. I know that. And they used Epstein. Epstein was like the dumb. I hated how they describe him as like this intellectual. Whitney was not smart. I mean, he was probably.
A lot
I had
of
a
people have
really
actually said
intelligent
that
boyfriend
like
at the
knew
time.
him well. They say he wasn't like how they built him up as like this smart billionaire guy. He was just like average Joe intelligence or something. I've heard that from a few people.
Yeah, he was pretty average. Like, I was definitely more intelligent than him. I'm not kidding. And, I mean, I could just tell. And I was around a lot of brilliant people at the time, like brilliant, just true brilliant people that were change makers in society, and he was not one of them. He was somebody, though, that was able to convince you that he was so charismatic. He could convince you that he could change the world for you in the next year, and it would be the most wonderful experience you would ever have. He could have run a cult. I'm not kidding you. He was that charismatic. And Ghislaine was very charismatic too, dangerously so, but once you got to know her, it all fell apart. And she was verbally violent and vicious, and physically violent and vicious. She would beat those Filipino maids. And the only reason I'm calling them Filipino, I don't know their names, and I know they were from the Philippines. But those women were precious, and they said that she hurt them physically. So she not only she never did it to me, she never beat me, but man, she was verbally violent like I have never known. I mean, other than Eileen Guggenheim, the two of them are the most vicious bitches I've ever spoken to in my life. Wow. I mean, they could cut you down, and it was so morally devastating. Like, just you just felt useless as a human being when you were told you're nothing because you're not Jewish, you're stupid, you're useless, a useless white girl, a poor little peasant. I mean, just the things that I was called, I was just like, I believed it, because it was like a cult. And the only thing that woke me up, Whitney, was when I was being assaulted. Somehow, well, the whole time I was being assaulted, I was thinking, oh, dear God, these people have been with my sister. Where is my sister? She's in Thailand. I don't think my sister, I thought she was dead. So I had that, and then it hit me that they had taken my photographs somehow. I knew when I was being assaulted. Somehow I knew they were pedophiles. All of a sudden, it hit me. Like everything made sense. All pieces fit together. And I ran downstairs the morning after they left, and I rifled through, and I had everything so organized. I knew exactly which pictures were what. And the reason I went to the FBI was because they should have been put away for life for child pornography. It should have been the end of it, right there. Boom. That's it. And it was I had proof, and they would never take my proof. No one would take the envelopes that I still have here, that my lawyers are going to take, and they're going to make them fingerprint. Because we know Ghislaine. I know it was Ghislaine that got the pictures. I don't even think Jeffrey was smart enough to know I would have hidden them, And it was all locked. All my stuff was locked, and it was very well organized, which you wouldn't expect for an artist. So I had everything numbered and lettered. And so, like, they stole picture A3 and I was able to go through and know exactly which envelopes they were taken out of, and I panicked, and I called Jeffrey's office, and I said, they are they have stolen my art and made it into child pornography and my reference pictures, and I want them back, and they hung up on me. And then a girl from his office called me, Whitney, and said, he has those pictures in his briefcase. He's using them. And she hung up. And I had to know that, like, those are my sisters. Okay, so one of the pictures was my one sister who was 12. She was 12. And Annie was 15 in the two pictures he took of her. 15. And they were totally nude. And they were just like the kind of shots, like they would walk through the room and I would just take pictures. And then I would, put clothes on them in the paintings. But I was studying the anatomy. And sometimes I would just have it be like really casual, half clothes, half, I was studying anatomy. Then I never did that again. Because, it was used against me in the biggest way ever. So.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. They did a lot of damage. And the thing that really bothers me is all those girls that they hurt. I think freaking one of them had straight. They all had
hurts me to even
straight
hear
A.
it. I can't imagine how this must have been for you. Oh my God. I am just.
Well, the thing that's so gross is that the FBI is complicit. And
Yeah,
they're still trying to make me into a liar. They're still trying to say that I never called them, And why did they come see me? Oh, this is the thing that'll kill you. Vicky Ward tells people, she tells everyone when they call her, well, they came to see her in 2000 and, was it 2006? Yeah, they came to see her in 2006 in the woods of North Carolina because I told them about her. She didn't talk to the FBI. She's just crazy. She's like another one of them. I'm like, wow, these elites really stick together. You cannot believe a word she writes. And everything Vicky Ward writes is for her own accolades. She writes it to make herself known. She's mad at us, at my family, because she was trying to do a podcast. She got her gig at CNN because she promised them an exclusive on us. And she couldn't get it. So she pitched a fit. And I told CNN, I said, I would interview with you liars for all the tea in China. I got to get back at everybody.
Well, that must have been nice.
Yeah. I'm talking to Whitney Webb and David Icke. I'm finished with liars. Sorry.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I really do. I really am really humbled that you would trust me.
I appreciate your work.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Whitney, I just appreciate all the work you're doing. You have no idea how appreciated you are. Like Edward Zoll at True News. Everyone I know that I've spoken to, all the lawyers, everyone's like, this girl is sharp as a tack. I sent your stuff to David Boies, and he was like, now this is a researcher. They're going to use your research in court. Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's going to be used. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So it's pretty, and they're even going to use one of Bobby's podcasts. He theorized on something, and he was dead on, and they're like, oh, we're going to use that. Seriously, it helps us so much because no one's speaking out. You're the only one who cares about how it all began. That's what's so important.
That's where it is. That's where the real story is. That's how you find out how extensive it is.
That's the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's all out of Israel. I'm going to tell you what Ghislaine told me about her dad. Because, I knew her right after he died. I think he'd only died 2 years before.
He died in 91.
She was constantly grieving for him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. She was constantly still in grief. And Epstein, so she would tell the story that her dad had Epstein protecting her. And I'm like, wait, what? This is weird. So she would say that Epstein was kind of assigned to her to take care of her because her dad, right before her dad passed away. But her dad knew him.
Right.
I thought that was really strange. So
I've heard this from a guy that used to work with Maxwell, or Robert Maxwell said that they had seen a guy that used to work for Israeli intelligence with Robert Maxwell told me that he had seen Jeffrey Epstein in Maxwell's office in the mid 80s. So that definitely goes back several years.
Yes. Okay. You said that. That's right. I forgot about that. Well, anyway, it's true because they absolutely, Ghislaine's thing that she told me was that he was assigned to her to protect her because her dad had died. And I'm like, who assigned you? You know what I mean? What does that mean? And when she was showing me pictures of her dad and crying over them, I had to sit with this bitch all the time and go through photo albums. And I know her really well. And I know how she operates. And that's why I'm so afraid that she's still on the loose. And I know who's taking care of her. I know it is the Rothschilds. I know it is. And I'll tell you how I know. Because Lady Rothschild is ready to kill me.
Is
Because
this
she's best
Lynn
friends with,
Forrester, the
she's
Rothschild?
going to sue
Is this who you're talking about?
Lynn. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Lynn Forrester. She's calling me a liar because she's saying that she set Dershowitz. See, I saw Dershowitz coming in and out of the house.
Yeah, she introduced Epstein
She's
to
saying
Dershowitz, apparently.
it's not possible.
She
that I
claims
saw
that anyway.
She didn't. Yeah, she did not. She did not. But she wants to think so. So their story is that she introduced them as a gift from Wexner, because every year Wexner would give a gift to Epstein, and this year it was, he's such a wonderful gift, Dershowitz. So she gave him as a gift. They already knew each other. So whatever. And I know they already knew each other because they knew each other through Barbara Guggenheim's husband, Bert Fields. Look into that. They already knew each other. Okay, so they were all connected somehow, like already, you know? But anyway, she said to me, he was assigned to me to protect me because my dad died. And I was like, I don't understand this. And I said, well, you know, what happened to your dad? And this is, I'll never forget this, so I'm going to curse, or whatever. I'm using a gross word that Ghislaine used. She said, those cunts pushed him. And I thought she said off the baby Ghislaine. So for years I thought it was the lady Ghislaine. She said, those cunts pushed him off of the baby Ghislaine. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but okay. You know, I'm just looking through albums trying to be empathetic with my employer. You know, it was the most awkward time. And I'm like, okay, well, and then she says to me, you know, my dad was a very powerful man, and, you know, he was very important. She said, Maria, you don't understand. And then she's showing me, like, who she grew up with and how powerful he was and how much money they had. And then she goes on to tell me, she said, you know, Maria, and this is true, she said, and she showed me, she had passports. Get this. I don't know how this is legal. She had a passport, a French passport, an English passport, an Israeli passport, an American passport, and there was one other. I'm trying to think of what the other one was. And I was like, I thought you were only allowed to be a citizen, like, of 2 countries or something. I didn't know. And she's like, oh, no, because of my dad. I'm a citizen of all these nations. And I'm like, what? So then later, when she was talking to me about something one day, she said that the Rothschilds were the greatest protectors of her family. And she wasn't talking about Lynn Forrester, by the way.
She was talking about the other ones.
The people that are in her. Yeah.
Well, Lynn Forrester
they're the greatest. They've always been the greatest.
Rothschild family, and that was in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, if she was talking about this to you before, then she definitely didn't mean her.
Yeah, no, it was through Ghislaine. I mean, that Lynn Forrester, I believe, didn't she hook up through them?
She met
the Rothschild
Evelyn de Rothschild, who's her husband, through Henry Kissinger at, I believe, a Bilderberg meeting. So.
Oh, through Kissinger. Okay. Yeah, of course.
Well, that's the official story. You never know what these people, they always lie about when they met each other and the circumstances, you know. I mean,
they do lie.
Not honest.
What you find out, Whitney, is that they all knew each other all along. That's what I'm finding out. I'm like, how do these people, how are they all connected? You know, it's unbelievable. And when I called the FBI, I'm going to tell you what I told them. I said, I know this is strange, but I have a report to make. And this is exactly what's Whitney. I said, I have a report to make on someone that I've been working for that recently kidnapped me. I said, I know this is weird and embarrassing, but I have to tell you because I need to know if he's a pedophile. I don't know how I knew to say that. Like, what? Anyway, and they said, who are you talking about? And I said, okay, well, his name is Jeffrey Epstein. And I said, and her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. And I said, but here's what's important. It also involves the Clinton family. It involves Bill Clinton for sure. It involves Donald Trump. And I said, the game show host. I thought he was a game show host. I didn't know who he was. And later, like, I thought it was funny that I said that. But I said, you know, the game show host, Donald Trump. And I said, but the most important one, and I said this, that he's the head of the snake, is Les Wexner. And they said, what do you think he is? And I said, he's Jewish mafia. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, what do you mean, what do I mean? Yeah, I said, what do you mean, what do I mean? I said, he's not Italian, he's Jewish, and he's mafia. I said, I can't be any clearer with you. And they said, how do you know he's Jewish mafia? And then I went on to list everything that I'd seen. That was just so creepy.
Could you
And how they
tell
sent the
me what
dogs
you
after
told
me.
them
And how,
about why you thought Wexner was part
yeah,
of the Jewish mob? Because that
yeah,
anything you can tell me there helps me build my
yeah,
case. I don't know if you read my
yeah.
background
Okay.
in Wexner in
Yeah.
part 3 of my series, or remember it, but there's definitely a lot of
No, I
evidence
haven't.
pointing to him. Right. So there was this police report filed, and I think it was Columbus, about the murder of his tax attorney. And the police report was
Oh my
destroyed,
God.
but there was a copy of it that ended up resurfacing 15 years later after it was supposed to be destroyed, that linked him pretty much directly to the National Crime Syndicate, which is the Jewish and Italian mafias working
Oh my
together.
God.
But in the 1980s, there
Yeah.
were these series of lawsuits and arrests made. Rudy Giuliani was actually a big part in that. It was like the pizza something, I can't remember, but they basically the Jewish
Yeah.
mob in New York took out the Italian mafia they'd been working with all those years and consolidated and basically just took over the whole thing. So anyway, Wexner has ties to those guys. So, but anything you can give me about what you saw that
Oh
made
my
you
God.
think, so I mean, there's clear ties from that, right? But
Yeah.
beyond that,
Okay.
anything you can tell me about what you
Right.
saw,
Right.
why you thought it was organized crime and not like intelligence, things like that. So anything there
Okay.
is helpful.
Right. 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 So one of the things that made me think it was all the passports. So, they say that they only found, I know for a fact Epstein had an Israeli passport because he showed me. Okay.
Yeah.
But Epstein, and I'll tell you about the Wexner, like why I think he's mafia, but I just want to say too why
Okay, sure.
I thought it was really sketchy that they had, like, how Ghislaine had all those passports, and then it made me really mad that when the FBI raided the safe, I know what was in that safe, and it's not a regular safe, it's a whole room, just so you know. So when people say a safe, they think, oh, it's the safe. It's Wexner had one too. It's a whole room you walk into. And in that safe, he had all the paintings he'd been stealing when I was acquiring paintings for him from poor artists, but he also had a lot of photographs of children, and I know for a fact the pictures of my sisters are in there because one of the people from his freaking office had told me they were in his briefcase, and he kept his briefcase in that safe. He also kept everything in there because he told me he kept it for Wexner, everything. And when I asked why they recorded everything all the time, I said, is Wexner really paranoid? And he said, yeah, Epstein said, yeah, that's one way of saying it. He keeps everything. He records it all. He said, I record everything, and I keep it for Wexner in the safe. So the first house I go to has pinhole cameras. Jeffrey's showing me. He's really proud of them. Second house I go to has pinhole cameras. He says, Wexner gave me this house for $1. Wexner gave me this for $1. Then I go to the apartment. Okay, so the way I found out that they had pinhole cameras in the Victoria's Secret dressing rooms in the 66th Street building, which was the flagship store, is that Jeffrey sends me over there. This is so gross, and I can't even believe I was so cut down at this point that I can't believe I kept working for him, and this is my most embarrassing thing to tell you.
Do not blame
He said,
yourself. Really, do not. I mean, I didn't live this
Okay.
kind of experience with
It's
abuse, but I
embarrassing.
had an abusive parent, and when you get worn down enough, you are willing to put up
God.
with stuff you would not normally accept,
Yeah.
right? So I totally understand. Please never blame
It's
yourself.
so true.
Please don't blame
Thank
yourself,
you.
and don't feel ashamed.
Yeah, the
What's
weird part
important is
I
about
was,
getting the
thank
information
you.
out to expose these guys. That's what matters. So don't feel like
Yeah.
embarrassed or anything.
Yeah.
Do not blame yourself for this.
Well, we all do. We all feel shame and embarrassment.
Because you're
I just
human.
want
The
you to know
people
all
that
those little
abused
girls
you
feel
are
shame, and it makes me sick.
not. I mean, it just means that you're not like them, but it's not your fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
So please don't blame yourself.
Right.
But anyway,
Thank
go on.
you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
I feel creeped out. But yeah. Oh no. I was just going to say that. So Jeffrey says to me one day, he has me in the office, and he goes, Maria, you just don't know how to wear a bra. And I was like, oh my God. And I have this thing like where I'm really modest about my body, and so it's horrifying to me. Like, I'm very modest. Like, I won't wear a bathing suit, and I was never abused sexually, but I've always just been, I don't know, just really weird about my body. So this stuff was so extra traumatic for me because in a weird way, I was like a child because I was so innocent, right? And I'm not just saying that like I didn't, my boyfriends from New York, that's one thing they can all say is, well, we never had sex because Maria was just so, I don't know what it was. I was just really driven with my art, and I was just really kind of innocent. And I would like show guys my jewelry when they would come to my apartment. I was just, I don't know, I was on another planet. I didn't get it yet. You know what I mean? So I was like really young mentally. And so that's why I think they picked up on that in me. And I know my friend Sarah was the same way, and they picked up on that in her. And even though we were in our 20s, they still could see it in us that we were innocent. And that's what's so sick is they preyed only on innocent people, that we had straight A's, were really driven. You know, there are all these things about, even though we don't all look alike, we had everything in common. We were all very creative. And so Jeffrey sends me over to the flagship store, which he can see from his offices, but he can't see into the store. He can only see, you know, and I walk over and, you know, I go in, and the women are like, okay, we expected you here, so we're going to have, we have some bras picked out for you. And I'm like, oh, God. So Jeffrey had already talked to the women who work there. And so they hand me all these bras, and I have to try them on in the dressing room. And not one of them fit me. I am not kidding you, not one of them. So when it was all done, I said, you know what? I don't want any of these. And I went over and I picked out, I had $300 of credit. So I picked out a bunch of flannel pajamas that were on sale that I knew I would use. So then I didn't know he would know. So then I come back upstairs, and he had watched me undress. He described my breasts to me. And the reason he was able to describe, I have certain marks that are unusual and scars, and he described every single thing. And I've never been more embarrassed. I wanted to die that my boss was described. And he wasn't doing it in a sexual way. He was doing it in like a really critical, mean way, like making fun of my body. And he's like, we're going to have to fix this. But for now, he just wanted me to have no breasts at all. It was so awful. And I'm like, okay, I have breasts. Like, I can't control it, you know. Anyway, it was awful. And he's like, you're going to go back there and you're going to get bras that fit you, and you're going to do it right now. And I kept the pajamas. I didn't care, but I did. I went back and I got these horrible bras that I never wore because they would like ride up in the back and they were itchy, and never wore any of that. And then the next day he takes me out and he's like, your clothes are totally inappropriate. And he makes me try on clothes. And I remember I wouldn't get any because they were so cheesy. So I asked if we could go to Banana Republic and the Gap, which I didn't know Wexner didn't own. But those are the only stores I liked at the time. And so he took me there and bought me like $1,000 worth of clothes. He did this with everybody all the time. Like, it was just like, I need to go shopping. And he would call the women and have them go shop with him. But the horrifying part is, before the next day, he says, you know, he describes the boobs to me. And I realized at that moment, those women couldn't see me in there. There were cameras in there that fed to his offices. Now, just to fast forward, when I was in Wexner's house, there were cameras there were pinhole cameras throughout that thing. And Jeffrey, again, is like, oh, look at all the pinhole cameras. And Guylaine says, you need to be careful. We can see everything. So I kind of ignored it, and I would go and paint in areas where I didn't think there were pinhole cameras. And then one was the garage. I actually later took over the pool house, which Randy Bowie came threaten me, but I didn't care because there were no pinhole cameras in there and I could work without being watched. But when I would go to the restroom or take a shower or anything, Guylaine would call me, and from the speaker, and this is in New York, sometimes in London, in different places, she would say, get out of the loo, get off the toilet. You have to come, you know, she would start screaming at me. And I was on the toilet. And I'm like, what's happening? So then later Jeffrey's like, oh, yeah, everything's being fed to Abigail. And so one day we're sitting there. I mean, my friend is there. Okay, so Jeffrey and Guylaine flew this woman out 3 or 4 times to see me because I was dying of loneliness, right? I mean, I was in isolation, quarantined for 3 months before anyone at our door. And I'm there by myself, and I'm like, this is bad. I had a boyfriend in New York, and I just wanted to be there. And so they flew this girl out that was really annoying, but she would hang out with me. This isn't Claire. This is another girl. And she would hang out with me. And so one day I said, I'll dye your hair. I was going to put some henna in her hair. And I spilled a spot. Okay, this thing is called the Rotunda where I lived. And in it, in the center, is a big circular hallway that's like a library, but it's all fake, like fake books, fake everything. It's so cheesy. But I spilled on the tacky, thick carpet a spot, just the tiniest spot of henna as I was walking in the bathroom. So I pulled a garbage can over it. And I got a call from Guylaine an hour later, scathing, like screaming like you've never heard, that Abigail is going to have me thrown out of there because there's henna on the carpet. How in the hell did they know? They're watching everything. They literally watched my every move, Whitney. Who does that? My point is, who has cameras everywhere? Sharpshooters, Dobermans, mafia. That's why I've said mafia. I'm like, I don't know anyone who lives like this. I did have a friend whose grandfather was mafia in New York, and they were the big, big family. And I went to their house one time, and they acted just like this. I went to their house out in the Hamptons, and I had a friend with me. I had two friends with me. One's black and one's Jewish, and they wouldn't let them in to the estate. And they let me come in. And I was like crying because my friends had to stay there, and I was like, I want to go home. And the only other time I felt like this was when I went to a mafia house. And I just knew. It was just intuition. I don't know if that helps you, but nobody lives like this. Nobody. With this level of like security and paranoia and violence. Having a violent thug come over to threaten a young woman who's an artist, who's done nothing wrong,
right.
You know?
Right.
And they were also going to take my life that day. And I knew that. But I made such a stink because I knew they heard everything and watched. And so I made such a stink, like in front of the cameras and on the phone. When I called Eric, I said, the Wexners are going, Eric Fischel, I'm like, they're going to have me murdered. I'm not allowed to leave. He's like, you've got to get the hell out of there. Whatever you do, leave. And I'm like, they're going to shoot me. You know, I told everybody. I called everyone I'd ever met in my life. Well, they knew that because they watched. So that's the only way I got out of there, Whitney. I saved my own life. And, you know, people like to say my dad saved me. They never let him on the estate. He was at the gates crying. I had to walk his boys to him, knowing I would probably get shot, walk the 3 miles to the gates. And, the other thing is they're having a really hard time because I have a driver's license that has their address on it, and they're saying I never lived there. It's kind of hard to get one of those when it gets shipped to you, and you have to go to the mailbox to get it. Yes. My lawyers have the license. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Well, a picture's fine.
I'll send you pictures. Yeah. So they have a hard time with that, and that just fell out of one of my art boxes, like right when all this happened. I didn't even know I still had it. I used to have a list of all the threats that I kept in my safety deposit box of all the threats I received over the years from them, and they were horrifying. And so one day when I was moving out of Austin, I thought I was finally safe, and I'm like, you know what? I'm good. They're going to leave me alone. It's been a lot of years. I'm going to use my name again, and I'm going to be me. And then as soon as I moved to Kentucky, that writer started harassing me, that guy, you know. And so everyone in the town then knew. I'm in this little town, and then everyone knew I was like, I had reported something to the FBI. It was just like, you know, rumors start in weird little towns. And I had to stay inside for 5 years in that town because I would be harassed because of that stupid writer. I hate that guy. I mean, he's just so irresponsible. I do not like him. Not a fan. But I mean, I made him a lot of money for this documentary. He's going to make a fortune because of me. Because no one was willing to do this thing. But I said, I'm going to do it because of Bill McLean. And Bill reminded me of my ex-boyfriend. He's just a really good guy. And I was like, I want to do this. And I know he's going to do a really good story. And it's not going to be too sensational or cheesy. It's just going to tell a lot of stuff about Wexner. And I made that agreement with him so that, you know. The other thing about Wexner is, I'm sure you know this, but this is something I noticed when Jim and I drove through, Ohio. As soon as you cross into Ohio from Kentucky or wherever, you get the first building you see is the Abigail Wexner Center for Women. I thought I was going to die. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then their buildings dot the whole state. So no matter where you are, you see Wexner this, Wexner that. But then when you go to the bathroom, especially as you get close to Columbus, there's human trafficking signs everywhere, Whitney, everywhere. So when you go to the bathroom in Columbus, on the door it says, do not speak to anyone, do not walk with anyone, go back to your car. I mean, there's like instructions on how to not be trafficked. And I'm sorry, I don't believe in coincidences at all. I don't believe in them. And years ago, when I was in hiding, I was listening to this show, and it said, did you know that all human trafficking begins and ends in Columbus, Ohio? Isn't that interesting? And I'm like, what? So human trafficking from the United States, even if they get the kid from Phoenix, before they take him to Mexico, they go to Columbus. What are the chances? I mean,
Wow.
he owns Columbus,
Yeah.
and it's the hub. Now, it's not the number one. L.A. is the number one center for human trafficking now, but at the time it was Columbus, and it's still Columbus is number 3. And it's not the third biggest city, and it's also the place where they all go. They all go to there before they leave the country or go to wherever they're going. They go to Columbus first. Why? Why do they take everyone to Columbus first? And I mean, the fact that they watched me like that Abigail, I had to get her permission to go outside. I'll never forget the one time she let me go to my mailbox. That's when I got my driver's license. And I had to walk like 6 miles because there was no way to leave the estate unless you walked the 3 miles to the gate, and then you walk down the main White Barn Road to these old junky mailboxes. There were like 6 of them. And I used their mailbox, and I got my mail the one time. And that was the only time I was allowed to go down that road. You know, I remember I was like, God, I get to jog today. I was just so happy. But I remember being terrified that my brothers would leave and the Dobermans would come out, so I came back very quickly. I was just like, who lives like that, Whitney? Who lives like that? You know?
Wow.
And who has like a tunnel under their house and the floor raises up?
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that according to the maid, Wexner,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
According to the maid, Wexner was gay for sure, and the marriage was like a setup. But I don't know. That was just the maid.
It's not
according
just,
to Chef
I've heard it from a couple people.
Okay. Well, Chef Andy said he and Jeffrey were definitely getting it on, and I believe him. So, and I don't think it was because Jeffrey wanted to. I think Jeffrey just did his bidding for Wexner in whatever way he wanted. I think Jeffrey did whatever Wexner wanted, and he provided Wexner not only with boys but with girls. And there are rumors at the university that Claire's boyfriend had said, but I had heard from other people that at the university he would have parties. So you know that floor that would raise up?
Mm-hmm.
He would have parties, and that would become like a dance floor thing, and he'd have all these boys from school, from university come. Just boys. He only wanted boys. So that was kind of a known thing on the estate, you know?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I hated that Abigail for never letting me go outside very much. I hated her. And I bet that she says she's never spoken to me, heard from me, heard of me, and it's all a lie. And my driver's license proves that's a lie. So that'd be pretty hard, you know, to have lived
Right.
there and have gotten that license miraculously.
Well, I mean, you know, honestly, at this point, I don't think anyone's going to believe Wexner.
Everything.
There's too much against him at this point for anyone to take his word for anything about any of this
Yeah,
stuff.
wait until you talk to Virginia. Virginia has the real smoking guns on him too, but I'm not allowed to say anything. But I do know that she does, and I will put her in touch with you.
Yeah, that would be great. But really quick, you sort of mentioned that you knew that Wexner had some sort of Israel tie and that Ghislaine was working under him. Can you elaborate on that? Do you think he had ties to Israeli intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay. And why do you think that?
So I absolutely do. So, okay, so this is why I think it. So Jeffrey and Ghislaine, they were at the estate, you know, they came like 3 times to visit Wexner while I was there. And they would go meet with him, and then they'd come back. And Ghislaine said they were working on all these Israeli charities for students and for, Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, oh, that's weird. And she was like, you don't understand our loyalty to Israel, Maria. You don't understand our loyalty. She's like, unless you're a dual citizen, you just don't get it. She's like, your people could never understand. She would say, my people, your people, the chosen ones, all that bullshit. And I'm just like, let me tell you something. If I walk out of here not, at all racist, it's a freaking miracle because I'm still, I struggle every day with it. I'm like, oh, I was so abused. It's just, I guess it could have happened from any group, but because they're the ones that happen to control the world, it's hard. It's really hard. Like this specific group, you know, of elites. It's really hard to not just hate them, you know? And so I haven't gotten over hating that Ghislaine and the way
I think they try and lump
the other
everyone
thing, the
in
reason
by
why,
design too, you know, in order to give themselves protection.
yes.
I think it's
Yes,
very
of course.
intentional. But
Yeah.
I can't blame you for
It is
feeling
very
that way,
intentional.
considering what you had to go
And
through. So,
right. Well, I don't really feel that way. Like, let me tell you my background. Every boyfriend I've ever had was very Jewish. Like, I mean, 100%. And never, I mean, I had the best relationships in New York. I mean, these are like the most patient guys. I don't know why they put up with me. I think back on it and I'm like, those are the nicest guys. So there were 4 boyfriends I had, and everybody who got in touch with them said, you know what, Maria, your boyfriends loved you so much and say nothing but nice things. So I have had very good experiences. But it was the Eileen Guggenheim thing and the Ghislaine, all of that really soured me on like on religion in general, if you want to know the truth. Like religion being used against people and just all of it was just really, it soured me. And I don't totally trust people. Even though I have friends that are Jewish, like I still have trust issues and it's so unfair to them. I know it's rationally, I know it's unfair, but I was scalded by the hot water. You know, I just can't stick my hand back in. Like, it's just hard right now. But I don't totally feel that way. Like, yeah. I'm just being honest. I'm like a really honest person, Whitney. And so most people won't ever talk about that stuff. And I'm not. And the other thing that pisses me off is this whole anti-Semitic BS, because they called Bernie Sanders anti-Semitic.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
know.
Like, when is it going to end? Like, that's the
it's
biggest
out of
scam.
control.
Plus,
and the whole
I'm really
loyalty
one of my
thing,
best
you
friends.
can't say that, even though you just mentioned that what Ghislaine told you, right? And Sheldon Adelson, he's on video saying all I care about is being a good citizen of Israel, and he's the top political donor in the United States. So the fact that you're not allowed to talk about it, I think, is very troubling, right? So, but anyway, I want to go back to some of what told you about at least like intelligence stuff, and what you heard about like Israel and Israeli intelligence.
Well, I want to tell you what she said about her dad's.
Right.
Yes, she said about her dad's funeral too. She told me, she said he was such an important person for Israel that they gave him a state funeral, and she went on and on and on about his funeral ceremony, and she showed me pictures of like what a big deal it was. And she said they murdered him, that Israel murdered him. She said the CUNPs murdered him, as she's telling me about this. So, like, she's saying Israel murdered their assets.
They do that.
I don't know. That's what she believed. And, yeah. So I thought after, like, talking to Chef Andy that he jumped off the boat. Because Chef Andy was like, Maria, that guy was the biggest criminal in history in London, and he had stolen so much money that I think he jumped. And I was like, oh, okay. Because, you know, this is just his opinion. But Andy knew all of them. He knew Wexner before Wexner and Epstein were working together. So that's why he's the Holy Grail, I'm telling you. I'm going to send you his photo and his information. If you can get that guy to talk, oh, my God. But anyway, he's Jewish, too. I was the only, like, non-Jewish employee. That was the other thing. They wouldn't have people around that weren't Jewish. It was really weird. Like, they go to the only people. Now, of course, all the people they raped were never Jewish. You know, that was like another rule, I think. I mean, maybe it wasn't a rule, but it seemed to be. But the children were never Jewish. You know, just the employees and like a lot of like Leslie Groff and those people, you know, that they had around were usually like they trusted each other, but they don't trust people outside their network. So it's not just that they're Jewish, it's that they're connected, you know? Like my boyfriend at the time when I was dating when I was dating him and working for them, was Jeff Mendelson. He is the neatest guy. You can talk to him. I'm sure he remembers stuff about it. He's as sharp as a tack. His father was Dr. Mendelson. He was head of Sloan Kettering. So I had been around some really smart people, and that's how I knew these people weren't very smart.
Right.
And everything I would tell Dr. Mendelsohn, he's like, Maria, that sounds like Dr. Mendelsohn said, they're Israeli intelligence. He said, they're scary. You need to stay away from them, you know? And I was like, oh, I've quit my job. Don't worry. But, yeah, like everything I would tell people, there's an article. Okay, there's another guy you should speak to. And he's the one who founded the New York Academy of Art. His name is Stuart Pivar. He's Jewish too, of course. But he's like totally different. But he's a little senile and eccentric. He's a billionaire, and he's like really strange. He's an inventor. He invented like the stuff that the coils that go in the trucks that stir concrete. He's invented all kinds of things, and he's so rich. And so he decided he was Andy Warhol's best friend, and Andy Warhol was like not smart at all, right? But they were really good friends. And Stuart Pivar is a scientist. He was brilliant and an inventor. And Barbara Guggenheim, Eileen's sister, was in this Warhol group. She was like a groupie, okay? And they would all sleep together and date and everything. So Barbara and Stuart kind of found, Barbara thinks the Academy belongs to their family because she was dating him when they founded it, right? And so that's how Eileen kind of came in and usurped the whole thing, like, oh, this is my school. But Stuart has always not understood how they just totally stole that school from him, and he doesn't appreciate all the pedophilia. And I used to see Stuart all the time at the flea market in New York, and I would walk up to him and chat. And one day I saw him, and I don't remember this, but he tells something Jones. It's a publication. Can't think of the name of it. I'll look it up. But anyway, he tells them that, and I remember this now, because Epstein would stalk me in Manhattan after I quit, you know, after I got back. It was so scary, and that's why I left New York City. He would just be behind me on the subway, and I would, like, run and take off. So he actually witnessed him stalking me at the flea market. And I said to Stuart, you're not going to believe this, but they tried to rape my sister, and they stole her, and I was stolen. And then anyway, I took off. And Mother Jones. So he tells in an article in Mother Jones all about this, like witnessing this. But, you know, most people aren't willing to come forward and say, yeah, we saw Ghislaine harassing Maria. No one will say anything. No one. They just like, no one cared. But finally, I couldn't believe it broke my heart that this man cared enough to tell the truth, you know? And he wants the academy taken down because Eileen's in charge of it. And he's horrified. Like, this pimp is in charge of our school. So I want my alma mater dead, honestly. I think it's an evil place that's been evil for a very long time. I think you need to ask Randy Mellick about it. Ursula, I think they could put you in touch with other people who could tell you about how Eileen Guggenheim worked. Do I have what?
Their contact information, like how I could get in touch with them.
Do you need permission? Oh, okay, so Randy Mellick, I can look him up and see if I can find his information. Ursula, I could find her maybe through ArtNet.
Well, if you can, because you'll probably have a better chance of recognizing them if you look them up than me, because I don't know the face, you know, or anything like that. So any of the people that you've mentioned that you think I should reach out to,
and I'll send Chef Andy.
If you have their contact information, if you could pass it off to me. If you can't find it, then don't worry about it. I don't want you to spend more time than you need to, you know. Okay. So, but any of these people.
No,
you know,
I'm really Whitney. I want to help.
Okay, well that's great.
Yeah, I really want to help with this. I can't explain to you how much the first time I read something of yours, I was like, oh my God, I have to get to know this woman. And I reached out to Edward Zoll because he had mentioned you one day. And I was like, Edward, please tell Whitney. I love her. I appreciate everything she does. And I need to talk to her someday because I have information for her. And he was like, will do. Absolutely. He's so nice.
He's a nice guy.
And those guys were taken off YouTube, you know. It's actually illegal to be Christian now, too, on YouTube. It's really gross. And that's all part of the same group, you know?
Yeah,
pushing
I know.
it.
The CEO of YouTube used to work at the same private equity firm as Netanyahu. So, I mean, it's a little club. Yeah.
Oh, gross. Is that woman?
Susan Wojcicki?
Is that a woman?
Yeah, she's CEO of YouTube right now. She used to work for Bain Capital. It's where Netanyahu
I love
worked.
how she's in one of my new drawings. I'm working on her. Trust me. I'm doing these really great anti-elite drawings, and I called the first one. I'm like, this is called the diagram for the FBI. They did not listen to me, so maybe they can follow my visual instructions. I am so mad at them, Whitney. Okay, so I didn't tell you the last thing they did that was so cruel. So when I was in Kentucky and I was being attacked for being an Epstein victim, my lawyer said, Maria, you need to call the FBI. They are here to protect all Epstein victims. They have promised they will protect us. I called, and he said, what is your name? And you could tell he was reading something on there. And he goes, you don't have a case. You don't have a problem. I'm not listening to a word you have to say. No one in this organization is ever going to listen to you again. And he hung up on me. And my mom was right there. This is the FBI and the KBI of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, I'm not safe. I almost moved. A friend of mine was like, you should move to be with me in Australia for a while. I almost moved, but I moved to like a gated community in the woods. But I am so tired of this when Eileen Guggenheim and Ghislaine Maxwell and all these people need to be hiding. But I'm the one who has to hide. I'm just like, why isn't Abigail Wexner hiding? That woman is that is one evil, oh God, Whitney, that is one evil woman. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
The thing that really started me off about her too was like, I was reading something, how they'll have like a person's name, like I'll look up Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb likes to write articles, or whatever. This says, Abigail Wexner likes to breed her own breed of horses. And I'm like, no, she doesn't. Abigail Wexner likes to keep artists captive and starve them so they can be raped. That's what Abigail Wexner does for Mossad. I mean, it's so obvious, it's like, I don't know. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's so inverted, the justice system right now, because these people are at the top and they think they can buy everyone off, but I think we're really starting to reach critical mass where enough people are just sick of it, fed up with it. One thing I did want to ask you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. One thing I wanted to ask you was specifically your reaction.
Oh, shoot, it cut out a second.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can call you too if you need me to.
No, it's fine. I might have to switch networks if you prefer.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I wanted to ask about.
Oh, okay. Oh no, it's good. I can hear you.
Is
now.
It okay? Good. I live in South America, so sometimes it cuts out just because
I
of
know.
the distance. Yeah.
Is it so beautiful there?
It's nice. Yeah, I really like it.
Is it just beautiful?
It's honestly, I don't think I'd be able to write about these things with my kid if I lived in the U.S., you know what I mean? So it's kind of nice to have that distance, too. It just makes me feel
I do know.
more sane.
Yeah.
Safe. But, anyway, I wanted your reaction
having a
to
child,
this
I would not bring that child to America.
Yeah, I'm not planning to. So anyway, I wanted to ask your reaction to this ruling, the recent ruling, if you have any thoughts you want to share, because I was planning to write a short article with either your views, if I can get in touch with Virginia, her opinions about it. Mm-hmm.
You know who would be better to talk to about that than Virginia is Courtney. Because Courtney's the one. Virginia has had nothing to do with keeping it going.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to give you, I could pass you to Brad. And Brad is her lawyer, and he would love for her to be able to make a statement about it. He's not going to, edit what she says or whatever. But I don't have her personal information on me right now, but I'm going to, I'll pass you to Brad, and then he'll pass you to Courtney. Brad's amazing. He's like, oh, God, he's the best person. He's the real deal. He's an actual lawyer that really wants justice, and it's pretty incredible to watch. He breaks my heart. I did a painting of this whole family because I was so just blown away by his goodness for all these women. And I worked on it for a year. He was like, Maria, this is amazing. So we have total kumbaya between us, all of us. But Courtney is the one who's really been making this case happen. She and Brad, trying to keep it alive. And that's why the bill was being named after her, because she never let it go. She has never let it go. And she's really the powerhouse with Brad behind making this case stay alive. And, Virginia has suffered immensely and all that, but she's also fortunate in that she's been able to sue because Ghislaine lied about her. And I was able to say Ghislaine's lying, and she was able to take Ghislaine's money. So Virginia's pretty well set up, The rest of us are destitute, in hiding, terrified, sick. A few of us have gotten really sick. I've gotten really sick,
Yeah.
you know? So what's so egregious about the ruling is that, first of all, I'd like to say that the voice of dissent was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, because she said that's a reptile's lament. And I've got to tell you something. She was dead on. When they were saying, oh, well, we really want to do this, but we can't, you know. So basically, my opinion is that these little girls were in diapers and not even born when I made my report to the FBI. How dare them? How do they live with themselves? How does Berman look in the mirror? Honestly, he makes me sick. And, you know, the other thing about, I'm going to finish this, but I want to tell you, when Berman first announced that the arrest, he has a little pointer, and he had a poster of Epstein, his 25-cent poster, and he's pointing to it saying, does anybody, I couldn't believe it. He lied to everyone. He lied to the United States of America when he said this. He said, we didn't know about this criminal until we read in the Miami Herald. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Well,
if you look back
I
at
think
it, you
most
will die.
people knew that
He
was
says,
bullshit.
we need victims of this man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he said, until we read the Miami Herald, we didn't even know this man. And I told his damned office everything. His office they knew it all, and they knew I was right. They knew I was telling the truth, and they told me to be quiet about it. Which, if the FBI tells you not to say anything, you don't tell anybody. That's why it was really hard with Vicky Ward to get that information out of me, because I'm like, the FBI told me not to talk, you know?
Yeah.
And I think they're doing their case, because I thought they were that they were an actual police organization. I didn't know they were a criminal organization that protected the corrupt people on top. And the way they're proving this is there's a woman in the United States right now who is like an actress, and some scumbag singer conned her into paying $500,000 to get her kids into school. And now the FBI is putting her in prison. They're going for Ghislaine. Yeah. And so it's really a two-tier justice system. I mean, you know, you've got the white people, and then you've got these people. So I'm just a plebeian, you know. but anyway, so yeah, it's just my opinion is that Courtney will make sure that this ruling does not sit, and I will make sure of it. And Annie and Virginia and all of us together will make certain that this ruling does not last. And we're with the voice of dissent that's a reptile's lament, and we're not going to let it stand. That's my opinion. That's my statement. I'm mad. I'm really mad.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
I swear to you, this is so weird, but I swear.
You know, it took me a while to even come across your story. You know what I mean? Virginia was definitely the one that was like most put out there, like the face of Epstein's victims. You know, she's the most well known. So people that didn't do enough digging don't know.
I know. Poor thing.
One thing I really wanted to ask you before we wrap it up for today, if that's I found the scrubbed report from a UK newspaper. It's from 2001, and Bill Gates has said that. Well, the New York Times basically said that Bill Gates didn't meet Epstein until 2011 was the first time they met. That's what the New York Times officially says. But the scrubbed report in 2001 says that one of Epstein's sources of money, it names 3 people. It names Wexner, it names Trump, and it names Bill Gates. Yep. This is in 2001. Is there anything you know about...
Right. So I know that they discussed Bill Gates. I heard his name come up between Epstein and Ghislaine. I will guarantee you they knew him. I don't know why they would be discussing him. Back in the 90s, 95.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's way before 2011. Yeah. No, I heard them very actively talk. And I remember it because I went to school in the Silicon Valley. And the internet was still a new thing a little bit. And I remember thinking, wow, they know the Microsoft guy? Like, I thought that was amazing. I didn't know anything about how disgusting he was. And I just thought he was really an amazing genius. And I just want to know him. Oh, wow, maybe he'll show up sometime. They talked about him like they knew him well. So, That was in 1995.
All right. Do you remember anything they said about him?
Because that's when I was
or you just knew that
working
they were
at the
discussing
desk.
him like they knew him well, but you don't recall any details?
Yeah, I don't recall any details. I just remember, all I remember from it is thinking, gosh, I hope he comes here sometime because they know him, and oh my gosh, I just remember being really amazed because I thought he was this superhero. I didn't know anything about him. I just knew
No, back in
what
the
I'd learned
90s, most people
in Santa
thought,
Clara, at Santa Clara.
it was he was just some cool guy that, yeah. So it definitely is interesting.
Invented Microsoft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's in on it. He's part of it. Yeah, he's part of the problem.
It just was
And
interesting
the
because it
thing that
said
you
that
will
he had
realize, Whitney,
business
the more you dig,
ties.
is that
Oh,
they
sorry.
all kind of have always known each other. That's what's
Probably.
really frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm. But they
And
were talking
I know that he was
about
always
business
getting,
ties. You didn't hear anything about that, or Epstein talk about
no,
Microsoft or anything like that, or investments with Silicon Valley in the 90s or anything like that. Did you hear anything
I
like
don't
that come up?
remember.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely they were talking about Silicon Valley, and that was the thing that perked me up. Was like I had just gotten, I had gone to school there, undergrad, so like I really listened to whenever they were talking about the Silicon Valley, and Jeffrey was always like really into pretending like he was learning. He was always like, "Oh, I want to learn about all this." So he would always threaten that he was going to go study in the Silicon Valley, blah blah blah. But as far as like specifics, I don't remember any specific statements about Microsoft, any specific. I just remember thinking, "Oh my God, they know him. I might get to know him." It was just off the cuff conversation, and I was just listening and thinking to myself, "Oh, that would be an honor." That would be one guy I'd like to meet because all the people they were bringing in were scumbags like Leon Black, and all
Right.
these people coming and going were financial elites, and they were not of any interest to me. I had no interest in them. And so I thought, oh, wow, they know Bill Gates. I just remember thinking they knew him because they were talking about him as they knew him, as if they knew him well, like he's their buddy. And I'm pretty sure that, God, I'm trying to think of what. Okay, they also said that they were going to have all these people at their estate in New Mexico. So when I went there the first time, and I don't know if people will remember this, but when I went there the first time with Eileen bringing me there, that was my first time around Jeffrey Gillan after they bought my art. I'd never had any contact with them other than that. And so she brings me to their estate, and they were talking about having scientists come. They were talking about what that estate was going to be. And they said it was going to be a place where they had people from the Silicon Valley, that was another time I heard the word Silicon Valley. They said they were going to have people from, political organizations with political power, people from science. I remember him saying scientists would gather there because he wanted it to be a place where people could learn, like a great learning institution. And at the time, they didn't say anything about like sperm or anything like that, but they made it really clear they were selling this as a place. So I know when the Clintons came, he told me that they stayed in the village that was like it's like an old Western village. It was really weird there, Whitney. It was really weird. But anyway, he said Bill came stayed there at the Western village with their daughter, Hillary and Bill and everybody. Chelsea, ugh. But that was later. That was later that he told me. So when I first went there, it was just being constructed. And so he was showing me what each building was intended to do. And he was like, well, we're going to have our own fire department here. This is the firehouse. We're going to have our own hospital here. We can do surgery here. Isn't that creepy? We can do anything in our own little hospital here. And we can do blah, blah. And I said, well, why would you need a hospital? And he said, well, there are snakes. People get bitten by snakes all the time here.
Yeah, but why would they surgery if it was for for snake bites?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. But he did. He said surgery. Yeah. We can do our own surgery here. And then this is, the main house wasn't built. And I was like, wow. I got in trouble from Eileen because I said, wow, this is a great double wide trailer. And I was just supposed to pretend like it was really great. And so I kind of was mad at them that they acted like I was so dumb that I come in and say, oh, this is wonderful. Yes. So I made fun and said, wow, this is a really great double wide. And Jeffrey thought it was hilarious. And he was like, you get over here. You are so funny. And we started talking. And he was actually like charming as hell. Funny to talk to. I know it's gross because he's a disgusting pedophile. And you could tell that there was like a sickness with him. A real sickness, but I didn't know what it was. Like it was like he had cancer or something, but you didn't know. Like I have really dark eyes now because I have cancer, and he looked like that, But it was a sexual sickness. I didn't know. Oh God, I got the feeling towards the end, before I even went to Wexner's, that they were very sinister. I just didn't know what they were up to. But seeing Wexner's place really made me put a lot of pieces of the puzzle together. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but it's...
Oh, absolutely.
I had to live...
It's helpful.
I had to live under constant surveillance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I don't know if the statement's very rich, but about the thing. But
I can use it all.
I would love it
I have
if
a
you
lot of information, but obviously eyewitness accounts always help, bump stuff up. So like I have that article proving that Epstein and Bill Gates knew each other well before 2001. And if you heard them talk about him like they knew him, then that makes me support that even more. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like even if you think it's not necessarily you saying it is going to blow it all open, it helps me build and support the case that will do that, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I don't worry. I can use everything you give me. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Good. I didn't want to waste your time.
No.
Okay,
I really appreciate your
Whitney,
time.
if you get me in touch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, thank you. And I would really love to get in touch with David.
I feel like
I have some things I'd like to tell him.
His son, yeah. I'm sure they'd be very interested to speak with you. But let me.
Tell him. I just wanted to both of you guys. I'm going to send you pictures of the art, but I'm going to I need your address too at some point because I'm going to make a copy of it because I want you to have this thing.
Well, I live in
so
South
much
America,
like all the
so
stuff
you'd have
you're
to send it
researching.
kind of far, but
I know you do.
That.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I want to send it to you because it's really weird how much it fits everything you're talking about. I was like, I got to send my mom when I finished it. She was, you have to send that to Whitney and David Icke. That was so funny because my mom knows all the stuff my mom follows everything you write, and and she listens to him. So.
Wow, I'm just really humbled. I mean, doing this series, I didn't know that I was I didn't really know I was helping you guys out, and that just makes me feel really amazing.
So much.
Wow.
So much. Oh, so much. Like even when they were doing the Netflix documentary, he said, do you have any real research? And I said, Whitney Webb does. And he went on there and he was like, holy crap, this is helping our documentary. Because now we can put the pieces together.
Oh, is he going to cite me? Or is he going to give this no one was listening to me.
It's like no one cares about what happened in the 90s.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully they'll cite me. That would be nice.
Oh, no, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully they'll cite you. Yeah. But I think what he was doing more than anything was just trying to make sense because everything I was saying about the 90s, no one believed. And I was like, please read this because this started way before I was around. This was I think it was right after her dad died that they hooked up together and started their scam on children. And they definitely hadn't gotten it down pat yet. But they had done it. They had been doing it for years. I know because they had procured Claire Hazel years before. Yeah. And some of these other people who were then getting other children for them way before Virginia was born, Mm-hmm. And so it bothers me that there are all these people that are unaccounted for. Yeah. One major thing. Yeah, Where are they? If they became prostitutes, I love it, people that are evil, like Indike and Khan will say, well, they're probably prostitutes. Or, really? If they were prostitutes, they would need money. And they might be on drugs, so they would need money for the drugs. Which means they need money, which means they would be suing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's great though. Thank you for listening.
No, I'll
I
probably be
appreciate
calling
it.
you again at some point once I have more time to spend on my book. I'm doing a
Yeah,
series about some other stuff right now that's not really related to the Epstein case, but because of this ruling, I wanted to try and,
right.
you know, get some
Oh
more
gosh,
info
great.
about it out
Thank you.
there, just so people stay mad about
Yes,
what has happened. Because I'm sure that in
yes.
the U.S. people are so I don't even know how to describe it. If you don't hammer it home and like
Fickle.
remind their short term memory, they just like it just
Yeah.
becomes normal and people are just like
Yes.
mad about everything. So I don't want that
Yes.
to happen
They're
with this.
fickle and stupid. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're fickle and stupid people. I can't even believe it. I'm like, why is it that people? And now everyone's like, I'm dying of the flu virus, and I'm like, okay, everything that happens now makes me very suspicious.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't
like,
blame
that's
you.
interesting timing that the whole world's getting wiped out.
Yeah.
I don't believe a thing anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
I
yeah, I
can't
don't
blame
believe it.
you.
I mean, if I die and I told my mom, if I die from the flu, do not let them put COVID on my thing because I am not going to be one of the statistics that they're using. Sorry. It's not that I don't believe there's a flu. I just don't believe that you have to shut down the world economy for the flu, right?
Yeah, no,
And
there's
it's because of
definitely
the people that are
something else
doing it,
going
the
on.
people behind it.
That's what I'm trying to point out in my new
What do
series
you
about
think they're
this stuff.
doing?
Well, I think it's an
Thank
intentional
you. Yeah.
plan because a lot of the things they're promoting as solutions, like this new surveillance system they want to put in, they had planned out last May
Yeah.
and last October before any of
Oh,
this was even happening. And they were saying at the time they needed to put it in for
right.
mass shootings. And then there's another document that just came out that didn't even talk about like the justification, just we need to do this. That was from this
Right.
National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, it's called, which is like Silicon Valley and InQtel, which is the CIA. And they're making this policy, and this was all last year, and now they're putting it out. But it's not just that side of
Yeah.
it. Also they knew the economy was going to pop at some point because they never fixed the crisis in 2008.
Yes.
And so I think it was an excuse to do
Yes.
a controlled demolition
Yep.
of the economy and rebuild it in a way that allows them to maintain
Yep.
and consolidate control. So I think that's ultimately what all of this is about, just sort of a controlled
Absolutely.
demolition of different aspects of society to build it up the way they think they can maintain control. Because
Yeah.
we're talking about, these people are super paranoid. They're constantly afraid of losing control and being exposed. And so
Yes.
at some
Yes.
point, they knew
Yep.
that they were going to have to do this. And you have all those CEOs, more than any CEO ever, amount of CEOs resign in the same month ever in history in January before all of this went out. I mean, it definitely, something
Yep.
stinks, right? So,
They're such scumbags too. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's saying that's being generous.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying.
yeah, there's
It's
a
just
lot
there's
of
no
stuff
way.
going on. So
There's just no.
I
Yeah.
have my hands on a lot of pies, trying to talk about the stories that are getting looked over, and trying to help just the ideas
Oh
that
my
wake people
gosh.
up. It's a lot of work. So
Yes.
but
And you're doing all that, and you're a mom.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, I have help.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I have a lot of help during the day, so I can get stuff
Good.
done.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
That's good.
it
I'm so sorry about your breakup. That makes me sad.
it needed to happen though. It had been going on the past 2 years.
Okay.
As soon as I got pregnant, it got bad. So I was there for a long time, just hoping things would change, and it didn't.
Gosh.
So like,
And they didn't change.
No, it was
Yeah.
kind of a mess. But I mean,
That's so
many women.
frustrating.
Yeah, but so many women go through this, so it's not unique to me. We're living in
Yeah,
crazy
that's good.
times. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
a lot of stuff is going on for a lot of people.
But you're taking so much on, and so many. Yes, so many people, just so you know, appreciate you. I just want you to know that. People, you have no idea, all over the world. I mean, I have friends in Australia that are like, that Whitney Webb rocks. I mean, it's just amazing. People have found you.
Oh wow!
And then they found me through my website, and they tell people I've lost touch with are getting in touch with me, and they bring you up, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to tell her. Yeah, so I've really wanted to tell you for a while. You have a lot of support, and all the victims and survivors or whatever really support you because we're all keenly aware of the work you've done and the research.
Wow.
And I mean, I've shared with everybody. I'm like, look at this. But also, like, Brad Edwards knows, and Sam Pottinger.
I mean,
they're like, she's sharper than a tack.
Yeah, I just wow, I just can't tell you how amazing that is to hear. Because I just cannot tell you how brave you guys are for speaking up and fighting against some of the most powerful people in the world. I just am in awe of you guys, honestly, and the stuff that the horrors you had to go through and live through, and then you didn't let it break you and stood up and fought back and exposed. It's such a powerful act, and I feel like so many people just don't understand that.
What's cool? They don't get it. And what's cool is we all really love each other, and that love is power, and that love is going to override any of the evil that was done to us, and they don't get it. They don't know what's coming. They're in trouble.
Yeah.
They're not getting away with this,
No.
They think they are, and I swear to you, this COVID thing, the timing is just so convenient. It's like, what on earth for Ghislaine and everybody? Oh, they don't have to hide anymore? Oh, the Rothschilds can probably let her out now. I know she's in England with the Rothschilds, and I have never been wrong about one aspect of this case, Whitney. I have never been wrong about it. And I know this based on the fact that the lawyers say she's not in the United States, and she's not in Israel. She is in England, and I know she's being protected by that evil monster family. And the way I know is I have best friends with those freaking Rothschilds. Yeah, I still have it. I have to unpack it. I don't know where it is right now, but I have it. It is here. I was in the middle of moving when this whole thing broke, and so I haven't unpacked yet. And then I found out I had 2 kinds of cancer, and 3 of my dogs died. I was like, what?
Oh, no.
So they were 23, 19, and they were 23 years old, 19 years old, and 17, my dogs. And they were my protectors during this whole thing going on. Like, I had a red heeler, a Norwegian elk hound, and a little Papillon. And they went everywhere with me and protected me, and they all died this year. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And then I have 2 kinds of cancer. What's up? But I'm going to fight it because I know their dream would be for me to die of cancer. So I refuse. I'm like, I'm going to win this, because they're not going to kill me. I know they want to kill me, but it's not going to happen. So, I mean, I'm not even being paranoid. They did definitely want to kill me for a long time. And now I'm like, not that important to them, but I'm not a very good thing for them to be, to be speaking out.
Right.
So I don't know I don't know if I'm safe. I don't know anymore. I know I used to be very unsafe. And I think, like, now speaking out publicly has made me a lot safer, I think, but I'm not sure. But the lawyers are like, watch your back, It's just horrible.
Yeah, but I think it's really important on, like, I don't want to get too hippy-dippy, but on like, an energetic level, like, you staying strong and saying, like, no, you're not going to get me, is really powerful. It is, and not living in a state of fear.
And all of us binding together, there's power
is very powerful also. So,
Right.
I mean, because people say to me all the time, energy. They ask me if I'm afraid.
I believe in that.
For like my work, like if I'm paranoid, and I say no, because I'm not scared of them. And if people would just lose their fear of these people, the world would change. Like,
what's really interesting? Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I can't tell that you're still talking.
Sorry, there's a lag.
I agree with you.
So it happens.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm really not that rude. Like, I'll start to talk, and then I'm like, oh crap, she's finishing.
No, it's
sorry.
Okay. It happens to me all the time when I do
interviews. But thank you so much for everything,
I feel so
Whitney.
bad because I interrupt someone and I don't mean to, and I feel like a huge meanie. Even when I talk to, like, people who are, like, really nice, sometimes they get offended.
Oh my
they
gosh,
don't realize there's a lag, and I'm like, no. It's just really unfortunate, but it's the reality of the situation.
No, you come across so amazing in all your interviews.
Oh, thank you.
You, just so you know, you come across so amazing in all your interviews. No, you really do. You're so sharp. You're so level-headed. I mean, you're such a great voice for this case. I'm like, God, please don't ever give up on it, because it's so important to have you. It really is. So I'm just really grateful. I've been dying to tell you all this time. For like a year, I've been dying to tell you.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask.
I'm so grateful, too, that you're going to get me in touch with David.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't have his email address, but I talked to his son who co-hosts a lot of his video stuff with him. So, I'm sure it'll work out.
Right.
And I think they'd be really interested to talk to you, especially from some of the things you said you wanted to bring up with him that you think he might be, right about. So I'll definitely pass it along for sure. But really quick, I wanted to ask if it's okay if I use some segments from this call on maybe like a podcast, just like a, anything you've said, or are you uncomfortable with having your voice?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's fine? Okay.
Absolutely.
I just didn't know if
Not at all.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
anything you want to use that I've told you, you use. Yeah.
Okay. Right on. But if I use like
your
voice saying
I've been
that doesn't bother you? Or would you prefer I just put it in writing? Oh, no,
not
fine.
at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you have me saying it. I think it's more powerful. I think it's more powerful.
Yeah, if it's coming from you than from me directly,
checking.
then I think people are more likely to be like, wow, than just me like retelling it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. I agree. I agree. And that's why I'd like to get you in touch with some more of the women too. It's like such a weird time because they're trying to do that settlement thing. And so some people aren't willing to talk, until after the settlement. But the settlement, it's going to be a pittance. It's so insulting.
They can also talk off the record if they want. I can just say unnamed Epstein victim.
Oh, okay.
So you could mention that. I'm assuming Virginia would want to.
Okay, I'll tell them.
I'm assuming Virginia would be fine letting me use her name, and probably Courtney too. But if there's other people that are trying to like settle and stuff, and they don't want their name attached to the information and just want to be an unnamed person coming forward, that is totally fine. Because the idea is to use the eyewitness information to support the research I've done, right? Because it makes it more credible. Yes, it does. And I'm sitting here thinking, my sister Annie's in touch with a whole bunch of the younger girls, and I'll have her help too, because these women are amazing. I mean, they just want it. They want Ghislaine. Trust me, we want to get her. But here's the thing that really bothers me: that most people, everyone's like, Epstein's dead, the problem's over, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I say this all the time. That is not the problem. Epstein was hired. All the time in interviews, I say what they've done is that they have made us argue about how he died. They make us argue about it, and that takes all the focus away from the people who did this that are still alive. I say it in every interview. Every time someone asks me, do you think Epstein was killed? Do you think he was murdered? I say, it doesn't fucking matter. Because the people that did this are still alive. It doesn't matter. It does not fucking matter. You're right. I know. But they've done, it does not matter. Knows how to manipulate this story, and they've done it. To make it all of us are quibbling about how what happened in that jail cell where there's no cameras, no one knows what happened, and we're all like arguing about it. Why Ghislaine is just like, well, I'm fine, I'm protected, they'll take care of me over here. I'm living at the Rothschild mansion. I know. I would bet my life on it that she's living there. I would bet my life on it. I mean, it's weird. The lawyers will always come back to me and go, Maria, I'm sorry, you were right. This has been the whole time, like for years. So for years, Brad was like, no, they're not assets. And now, before his book came out, he goes, I just wanted to tell you were right. They're assets. I'm like, I knew I was right, because I'm an artist and I'm really in tune with things, and I'm very visual. And I remember everything I saw, Whitney. They picked the wrong person, They weren't counting on love for my sister. Even though they think they're really smart, they always make mistakes. Yeah. They do. They do. Thank goodness. If they didn't control the FBI, well, you're amazing. They wouldn't have been able to get away with it. So, of course, it's a mess. See, everyone says to me, Jeffrey Epstein's so horrible, and I say then, the FBI is a criminal organization that has abused us more than any Epstein person could ever do. And it's so gross.
It's so gross. And I was such a proud patriot because I had 2 grandfathers that signed the Declaration of Independence. And growing up, that was like a big deal, and I always thought that was, and now I'm like, oh, I hope they weren't 33-degree Masons. Everything's changed. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I wonder how
know
they
the
got that
feeling.
power. Yeah.
Like, I used to think it was cool that my grandpa was a colonel in World War II, and then I found out, like, he wouldn't talk about it, and all these horrible things happened, and, like, war crimes and stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe.
Oh, no. Oh,
Yeah.
God. That's exactly like
So
my
it's kinda
epiphany this
like,
year. I'm like,
oh,
oh.
man. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much, Whitney.